Chapter 7. Unsure of what to do early the next morning, Jimmy puttered around, making himself look busy. Although the forest remained silent, there was something eerie in the air as he went to check on his chickens and walk his property. Deer season had come and gone with no luck, so Jimmy felt comfortable stalking up and down the deer trails that littered the empty woods. It gave him time to think and contemplate his next moves, just in case anything he thought that he knew came to pass. With an inevitable stay-at-home order coming any moment, it seemed that Jimmy was stuck with only the supplies that he had. He took a mental inventory. His best guess was that they had 3 to 4 months of food. As Jimmy left the woods and ascended to his house, he noticed that he had not heard one car speeding down the road. Nor had he heard the whir of a diesel engine, popular in his neck of the woods, setting the silence on fire with its obnoxious tones. He entered the house, kicking the snow off of his boots, and settled into his office chair. An email greeted him. Subject: Updated Attendance Policy. Dear employees, in light of the President's announcement last night, we want to provide clarity on expectations moving forward. Until further notice, all manufacturing employees are required to report on site and work a minimum of 8 hours per day. While we do not take the federal government's warning lightly, we consider our work to be essential to both our customers and our community. In addition, all manufacturing support staff are still required to be in the office a minimum of 4 days each week. Other office personnel may continue to work remotely unless otherwise directed by their manager. Absences on Monday, February 9th will be excused. Beginning Tuesday, however, failure to report as required will result in unexcused absences, subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. We appreciate your cooperation, professionalism, and dedication during this time. Sincerely, Management. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, once again questioning why he accepted the job. Since today was excused anyway, he decided to do the only right thing: take the day off. Even on good days, it was noisy, messy, and alive in his world. His kids were crowded around the dining room table, eating pancakes and laughing with each other. The sound made him smile despite everything. He found Jessica in the kitchen, her bun bobbing as she was huddled over the skillet, flipping more pancakes. She seemed oblivious to the situation developing in the outside world. "Hey, good looking, what you got cooking?" Jimmy asked as he crept up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "You scared me, Jimmy. I thought you were gone at work," she said, pecking his lips. "Based on what we heard last night and the fact that the kids are at home, I assumed that went for us too." "School is online for the next 2 weeks, but I knew they would just ignore that and make you come in," Jessica said, sliding another pancake onto the stack. "The good news is we get an excused absence today." "And the bad news?" "The bad news is that I'm still required to be there 4 days a week. The guys on the floor, though, have to be there every day. I feel worse for them." Jessica frowned, turning to face him. 4 days a week? But the President said the state needed to shut down. Jimmy shrugged and said flatly, "They seem to think that they know better than the President." "Do you want some pancakes?" Jessica asked, seemingly moving on from the conversation faster than Jimmy wanted. Jimmy let out a breath and a defeated laugh as he said, "Might as well. I don't have anything else to do. Thanks, honey." While the older kids did their schoolwork, Jimmy decided that he would take stock of what else he had. Although he had lived in towns for most of his life, he had never been around firearms until adulthood. He didn't grow up knowing much about them and didn't understand why people owned them. He understood and respected the Second Amendment, but he grew up in a small northern Indiana town that had never seen a murder or violent crime. But something had changed in Jimmy's early adult life. He had realized that the world was tough, especially being on your own. Protecting yourself from people in the real world was a lot different than settling differences by throwing hands in the schoolyard. Jimmy's collection wasn't impressive, but it was his. The Ruger SR-22 rode on his hip every day, the one pistol he trusted to keep close. Jessica's family had passed down an old J. Stevens single-shot 12-gauge, more relic than weapon now. It still barked when fired, though it kicked harder than it should have, and Jimmy mostly kept it for sentiment. His Remington 700 deer rifle, with its vortex scope and a box of dwindling .270 rounds, saw little use in the thick Indiana woods. By contrast, the Ruger 1022 had been worked to death. Thousands of .22 shells stacked in boxes from back when ammo was cheap. His pride, though, was the BCM Recce 16 MCR. Zach had helped him dress it up with a holographic sight, sling, and a pile of loaded magazines. Jimmy wasn't a gun nut, but he knew enough to make him dangerous with the weapon. A 20-gauge shotgun and Jessica's small Ruger LCP rounded out the safe. Nothing fancy, but enough steel and brass to give him a fighting chance if the rumors from the blackout broadcast were true. He also hoped his bare archery compound bow and several arrows would serve him well in the future. The next morning, Jimmy made his way down the winding country road and out towards State Road 146, his inner dialogue disturbed. He first argued with himself about what he wanted to say to Pete after he arrived at work. He settled on telling him exactly how he felt, though he knew that he would melt into the painted plywood flooring the moment he saw him, unable to muster up the courage to do what needed to be done. As he came to the T where State Road 146 met his road, he looked right. No one coming. Looking to his left, the road was also empty. Come to think of it, he'd seen no one on the road the entire trip, which only made him angrier. Knowing that everyone in the state must have been following the president's recommended orders except for his place of employment, he slammed his palm onto the steering wheel. He crept out onto the freshly plowed highway, taking his time as he drove through the deeply forested region of it. As Jimmy crested a hill, the road flattened out. Farmland lay barren on both sides of the road, and he could see for a mile or more. He noticed there was something white in the road far up ahead, but wasn't sure what it could be. As he cruised in closer, he noticed an orange sign read, "Road closed. Authorized personnel only beyond this point." Strands of yellow tape littered the barricades, reading, "State Police, do not cross." This is more serious than I thought it could possibly be, Jimmy thought as he backed up, turned his forest-green Suburban around, and headed back to find an alternate route. Winding back down the highway from where he came, the emergency broadcast system began to buzz loudly 3 times through his radio speakers. The dull, computer-generated voice said,
"This is an emergency alert from the Governor of Indiana. A state of emergency is now in effect. All non-essential travel is strictly prohibited. Roads are being actively monitored, and law enforcement officers are enforcing this order. You must return to your home immediately and remain inside until further notice."
Jimmy's grip on the steering wheel tightened as Mason's ominous words crept into his mind.
Do not attempt to leave for any reason other than life-threatening emergencies. Failure to comply may result in detention or arrest. Stay tuned to this station for ongoing updates. Protect yourself. Protect your family. Take shelter now.
As the message repeated itself, blue and red flashing lights appeared in Jimmy's rearview mirror. Just great, he thought as he slowed, pulling onto the narrow shoulder of the 2-lane highway. Rolling his window down, he was reminded of the cold when his breath steamed through the vehicle. The officer walked up in his thick leather state police jacket with his gloved hand on his hat, trying to shield his face from the wind and drifting snow. "Hi, officer. Was I speeding?" "No, sir. Are you aware that we are in a state of emergency? Emergency personnel are the only ones authorized on the road today. You need to return home immediately. Where are you heading today?" "Oh, yes, sir. I just turned on my radio after realizing the road was closed a couple of miles back. I heard the emergency message and was making my way back home. I was out and about because work said that they were not shutting down and we were required to be on site. I'm really sorry about that, officer." "Things are getting dangerous. I would recommend that you stay home. Batten down the hatches and hug your loved ones. Don't let me catch you out and about until the all clear has been given."
"You've got it, sir. I will get straight home and keep an eye out for better news," Jimmy told him, his heart beating through his chest. "And good luck out there, sir," Jimmy told the officer, being as genuine as he'd ever been. He passed the sign again, this time reading, "Thanks for visiting Karst Valley," as he made his way down State Road 146 and away from the west side of the city. After arriving back home, Jessica met him at the door. "They've closed everything. The governor had a press conference on the news this morning. Cases have popped up all over the state." Jimmy slipped inside, rubbing his hands together as the warmth of the house hit him. He paused in the foyer as Jessica continued. "This sickness has spread from Chicago into Gary and is moving quickly from the north. It's really bad in the southern part of the state, too. Hospitals are starting to fill up in Indianapolis. What are we going to do, Jimmy? How are you going to protect us when the world falls apart?" "I don't know what you want me to say. We don't even know what's going on for sure." "Yes, we do, Jimmy. You said it yourself. This could be even more deadly than the last pandemic. Let's just ride this out and see what happens. In the meantime, we have to stay strong and steady for the kids. They don't need to know what is happening, and they should be able to live as normally as possible." "Hey, Dad, did you hear about what the governor said?" Chloe asked. "I did, sweetie. What do you think it means?" "Nothing good, but we will make it through without any problems." Jimmy had made a conscious effort that he would never lie to his children from the moment that his oldest had been born. But he also knew that none of them needed to know everything either. As he grappled with that in his mind, she changed the subject for him. "Want to see what I'm learning in school, Dad?" "That would be great. Let's see what you've got." She consumed his mind and his time for the next few minutes. But as time went on, his mind raced as he found it harder to concentrate, even on the things that felt like they should be most important to him. The local news ran constantly in the background, but there was no new information. Nothing to confirm what Jimmy had heard from the blackout broadcast. It was bland, uninformative, and most of all, he could tell they were lying. They were misleading and misdirecting. Suddenly, Jimmy's pocket started buzzing. He stepped away from his kids. "Finally, Zach is calling me. I wonder if he's telling me that he's close." But his disappointment was amplified tenfold when he saw that Pete was calling him. "Hello," he said, hoping the disappointment was thick enough to be noticeable. "Jimmy, where in the hell are you at?" Jimmy stammered. "At home like everyone else, Pete. What are you talking about?" "I think that the email I sent out yesterday was pretty clear. You are required to be here. So why aren't you? A no-call, no-show means that you have 1 point left before termination." He could hear Pete stomping around. "What do you mean? I couldn't." "You were supposed to be here and you aren't. You better be here tomorrow or you're fired." "But Pete," Pete interrupted, "and you better be online from home in the next 4 minutes or I'm firing you today." Weighing his next words carefully, Jimmy began calmly. "Screw you, Pete. You're the only one in the company that thinks you're good at your job. But we all know that you're just a failed actor who couldn't get an audience for a free play in the park." "How dare you?" Pete interrupted again. But Jimmy shot right back. "I'm not finished. Don't interrupt me again. You've been nothing but a prick to me since the day I started. I've ground my bones down to dust for you, working late, missing my kids' games, missing some of the most important moments in my life while still being in my own house because you have been monitoring my progress. If I step away to take a dump, I always have a message from you asking where I've been when I get back. You're a tiny little tyrant and I don't care anymore. You can't afford to fire me. I'm the only one in this company that can do my job, and you don't have time to replace me with everything happening right now. And for the record, 146 is closed, and I was pulled over trying to find another way to get to work. I was told to go home and not leave the house until the governor had lifted the state of emergency. So, if you want to fire me, then do it, you pompous little office gremlin." Jimmy ended the call. He had blacked out at some point in the middle of his rant and wasn't really sure what he had just said, but he knew it wasn't good. He looked up, Jessica staring at him in awe. James Dean Wood, what did you just do? He deserved that, but you probably could have said it differently. I'm proud of you, though. It's about time you stood up for yourself. His phone began vibrating again, but Jimmy instantly ignored the call without looking. He took his phone into his office, threw it on the bed, and closed the door.